Hey guys, what's up? PDC here, and today we're going to be doing something different. This video is not going to involve Pokemon, probably, not in the slightest, even though I have Pokemon Showdown open, which may or may not be edited out in the actual video. But today I wanted to talk about something else, and what I wanted to talk about was music. This is not a Pokemon related video, I just wanted to do it because I know a lot of you guys are fans of hip-hop, of rap, and this is something I've been talking to, or not talking to, but mentioning to people like Blunder, Jade, even Faji. You know, people rap at the moment. You know, you have people like I'm stumbling over my words because it's 80 degrees in my house right now because I have no AC. But you have rising stars like Playboy Cardi, Lil Uzi Vert. You had XXN's Tentacion, and these guys all sound relatively similar. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I enjoy Playboy Cardi. Lil Uzi Vert, I like some of his stuff. Don't like X. I think he's a bad person. I think he's had cool stuff when he was, a new artist. I think Seventeen Your Hood is pretty good. But the point is that a lot of these artists have a very similar sound, and I think that most current music fans of hip hop, most current rap fans, people who are really, into this new, I guess you would call it new rap, people who are really invested in it, I feel like you guys should try out a different genre of music other than hip-hop, because I know a lot of people, similar to metalheads, I think, even, I think hip-hop heads are probably not as, but the second closest to the, shelteredness, or the second next to the most insulated group of music fans, because I really do feel like most of the people who I know, really only listen to hip-hop, and that's it. They don't listen to much else, especially in real life. I feel like these people rarely listen to anything else, but online too, and it's not like you can't do that. I listen to a lot of hip-hop. I probably have listened to more hip-hop and rap than most people, if not everyone watching. I've listened to hundreds of albums, and I found that, the trend in new rap is gearing towards a more industrial sound. And industrial seems like, for those of you who are not as into music, or into music terminology as I am, industrial is it's a type of music which I'd characterize it as similar to noise rock mixed with metal. It's alternative rock, essentially, but what I'm trying to say is that industrial is essentially industrial and noise rock. So really, industrial, noise rock, and even metal. These are three separate genres which are really inspiring hip hop right now, and I really encourage you guys to try it. And this is just a musical, a little musical dialectic, but for the most part, I think that anyone who likes artists like Lil Uzi Vert, Playboy Cardi, or Future, even Future's more grimy stuff. Like, if you liked his mixtape Radical, or you liked songs off of DS2 like I Serve the Bass, I think you would enjoy industrial music. And we're going to get more into this with specific examples off the top of my head. I didn't write anything out, I just wanted to talk about this. But there's a song off of Playboy Cardi's newest album, Dial It, which is, the album as a whole is very punk-inspired. At least in aesthetic. However, I'd argue that its, internal composition is a lot closer to industrial music. You can hear it in its, not in every song, but in a lot of the songs, like, especially the one I'm about to mention, R.I.P., which is my absolute favorite song so far to even come out this year. It's so good, that song, because it takes, kind of a boom bap approach, but it makes it loud. It has that grime sound, almost like feedback in the background. And overall, it's just a really, really, really good song. And when I thought about it, I was trying to think, I listened to that song like 20 times when I first heard it, and I still play it almost every single day. When I was trying to think about what was so good about that song, I realized that it really was just a take on one of my favorite types of music, which was industrial. Now, industrial artists like Coil, my favorite 9 Inch Nails, which I think is pretty accessible because 9 Inch Nails is the industrial rock band. They've broken into the mainstream. They're incredibly popular, and their older stuff, specifically the Downward Spiral, Pretty Hate Machine, and I forget the other one that they have that I really do like this album, but I completely forget the name of it. I don't know why. I haven't listened to it in a while. That's probably why. Pretty Hate Machine, the Downward Spiral, and God, I forget what it is. It's the one with the Starfuckers and God, Even Deeper, and some other tracks on it. I'll probably remember the name in the video, but when the video ends. But the point is that a lot of these hip-hop artists are really taking cues, actually more the producers, but the artists too, I'll get to that later. The producers especially are taking cues from older, more interesting, not more interesting, but, you know, more heavy types of music. I don't know why I said interesting, because I think hip-hop is a very interesting genre. I think it might be the most interesting genre of the past 20 years, for sure. Hip-hop is, you know, a fantastic genre because it's new, and hip-hop is always evolving. And it's top of the charts, and it's underground, and it's everywhere, and that's what's really cool about it. And it's accessible to make, and, you know, accessible to produce. It's a good, really awesome genre, which I know people hate it, which I think is ludicrous, but it's really interesting to see rap evolve in our eyes, because for the younger people, you know, the people who are older probably saw rock evolve, or they saw shoegaze, or, you know, things like, you know, electronic music evolve. But we as the younger generation are witnessing the evolution of the genre of music, which, you know, before our own eyes, and that's hip-hop. And, you know, I'm not going to give you a history of hip-hop, but I am going to say that I think it's pretty obvious that hip-hop now is inspired a lot by industrial music, the industrial sound. And that's really interesting for me because I always like pointing out, like, oh, this is taking a cue from this type of music. And sometimes it's done badly, as in the case, I'm going to cite A$AP Rocky's album. A lot of his tracks were really, really noise rock inspired. I say this because you have those distortion beats. I mean, the opening track, which is actually really good, Distorted Records, you know, it kind of, you know, sets the tone for the album of what is to come. And it's a lot of distortion, but I think it's overzealous, and I think that it's not done in a way which is pleasing, and I don't think it'd be done in a way that is pleasing for most listeners. I really don't think it's a good album. I think it's boring, and I think that it does, you know, the noise rock in a way which is probably, you know, too familiar to the, you know, home genre itself than to what hip-hop is, or the hip-hop take on it. I think that it's far too similar to what traditional noise rock is, or what they're trying to do. I mean, it's cloud rap also, and cloud rap is, you know, cloud rap is similar to noise rock in that it favors distortion. But I just don't like the album. That's not the point, though. You have, you know, artists like Playboi Carti who are taking cues, you know, very strongly, and are really trying to integrate this type of music into their own style. And I'm not saying, you know, industrial music is not built around things like ad-libs or repeated verses or words. Usually, that's not something that's, you know, integral to the genre. But it's definitely interesting to see that incorporated over industrial sounds and how well it fits. You know, you have something that's really hard-hitting. You know, for example, if you ever listen to the song Closer by 9 Inch Nails, you have the beat, which is, you know, like dun dun dun, and with every single word, Trent Reznor really, you know, follows the beat. And I feel like with the ad-libs and the quick succession of an artist like Playboi Carti's vocals, he really, you know, tries to emulate that. I don't know if it's intentional, but I feel like it's relatively similar. Now, in the same case, you have these people, these new hip-hop artists, wanting to be more than just hip-hop artists. They want to be rock stars, like Lil Uzi Vert. They want to transcend their genre. And that's interesting. That's a new cultural embrace. These people are, you know, there's the whole genre of things like emo rap now. And, you know, I think that's a fair categorization of what this type of music could be called in some cases, because you certainly have that streak of sadness, of self-hatred in some of these artists' songs. And for a rap, for a genre which, for the past 10 years, at least on the top of the charts, was about being, braggadocious and powerful and strong and not caring about emotions. It's interesting to see that kind of be put on its head a little. The same thing with metal. These harsh sounds, these really bombastic, these strong, powerful, bust your shit open beats, they are probably too much for some people. You have people like 6ix9ine, whose production and vocals are all about industrial metal sound. And that's what's interesting. You have these artists who are becoming very popular. Same thing with XXXTentacion, artists who are becoming, very, very popular off of a sound which, people might otherwise dispute. I think that, the loudness and the anger and the frustration of, or just the general hunger of their vocals and the beats are, inextricably linked to the metal music of the 80s and the 90s and thrash metal, and the sound, the production is more industrial than it is metal, but I can definitely see the parallels between, bands like Judas Priest with their album Painkiller and the production, the vocals, seen in some of these artists. It is industrial hip-hop, and I think Death Grips really was the first group to really come out with that. They pioneered the integration of industrial music and hard rock and metal and electronic and all this stuff into hip hop, and I think that these artists are really putting it forward. So really, what I'm trying to say is that people who would say, I don't really think metal is the genre, I don't want to listen to people screaming out praising the devil. Well, for what it's worth, I think a lot of the music that you're limiting metal to be, or you're categorizing metal as a devil worshipping genre. That's not true, first of all. But even then, I think it's more about the music in some genres of metal than it is actually about the lyrical composition. And there's metal bands which are incredibly accessible, really good. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Slayer, Opeth, all these bands which, I would recommend the foremost two, or, of course, bands like Black Sabbath, Metallica, but I'd recommend the foremost two probably the most, because I feel like that is really where the sound of this, almost overproduced but powerful type of metal is coming from, and, or this hip-hop music is coming from. So really, I would recommend, you people, who are watching, who care about music, to maybe give this stuff a try. I would say that artists like Death Grips, people who enjoy them would probably enjoy artists like Nine Inch Nails. People who enjoy Playboi Carti's recent work would probably enjoy artists like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Nine Inch Nails or Coil or, all these other obscure industrial bands I'm forgetting. But I feel like this is really where you're seeing in live action a musical crossover. Shoegaze, and noise rock are genres which I would also consider contenders for hip-hop crossover. Dream rap, dream pop, My Bloody Valentine, another band which I think, shoegaze, My Bloody Valentine is often, given the crown jewel of the shoegaze genre, and, they're loud, just ear-busting sound, I'd say, it's tantamount to the loudness we're seeing in hip-hop nowadays. So really, what I'm trying to say is that this is a really interesting time, because I feel like this is, if there's ever been a time, this is when the, crossover, there's potential for people to listen to different genres. That's really it. That's really all I have to say about it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.